Hello, class. Welcome to week 4's live session. I just wanted to review with you what is happening in week 4 and some tips and guidelines to help you to be successful. Let's take a look at what's happening in the week 4 classroom environment. During week 4, you have a midterm exam. And this midterm exam is going to be the objective is to ensure you understand the alternative dispute resolution process and procedures, describe mediation and the advantages and disadvantages of mediation, explain the different forms of dispute resolution and relate them to solving a client issue. Now, the midterm exam consists of 28 questions and is worth 95 points. The format of the assignment, you will have 5 essay questions, each worth 9 points, 1 short answer question worth 5 points, and 20 true false multiple choice questions worth 2 points each. For each essay question, your response should be a minimum of 200 words, and please bear this in mind, and it should have at least 1 reference included in the body, which means you should have your in-text citation in the body of the response and a reference list for those essay questions. So you have, as I said, 5 essay questions, and each essay question response should be a minimum of 200 words and should have at least 1 reference included in that response. For the true and false and multiple choice questions, you select the answer that is correct and you will be graded for the correct answers. Now, for this exam, once you open the exam, you have to complete it. You cannot open the exam and view the questions and go back. Once it is launched, it has to be completed the same time, so you cannot save and resume for later. So I would suggest that you allow yourself a good 2.5 hours to 3 hours to answer all the questions. Remember that unanswered questions will be counted as incorrect. This is an open book exam and it is not timed, so you can give yourself all the time in the world to complete it. So this is what the exam would look like. And here, once you open the exam, you will see multiple attempts are not allowed. The test can only be taken once. So once you open the exam, the test there's a forced completion. It doesn't allow backtracking. This here says it can be saved and resumed later. That's not correct. So just make sure that you understand that once it is launched, you have to complete it at the same time. So you'll get your questions. What I will do is I will go ahead and to give you a good shot at the essay questions, I will probably go ahead and provide you with a listing of those. So I will go ahead and provide you with a listing of those. Let's see that we can make sure that you understand that what you're supposed to do here as it relates to the exam is 1, you see here the test presentation, 1 question at a time. You're prohibited from backtracking. If you do the questions as a group, just remember that the questions are randomized, so you may not all have the same number 1 or number 2. So you have to be careful with that as well. So again, this should not be a difficult process for you. I do encourage you to go ahead and make sure you review the sessions, the last week's sessions. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Now, I want to make sure that you are adequately addressing the questions asked in the week 4 discussion. I noticed in some responses that you are not normally addressing each section of the question. So here, you're working with Redwood and Associates. Your company was hired by Mindy Peters to pursue her divorce against George. You worked with Charles, one of the firm's associates, on the Peters case. Several weeks later, you resigned your position at Redwood and Associates to work for Law Connection. Law Connection has been hired by George to represent him in his custody action against his former wife, Mindy Peters. So you need to identify the court. What court will you be using? So what state are you in? Which court will you be going to? The first part of the question asks, do you think you have a conflict of interest? Please answer that question alone. That's a standalone question that you can at least write a full paragraph on. Why should you do? And you can address that in that question. Is there a conflict of interest? So you were working with Peters when Mandy came to pursue her divorce against George. Did you work on the case with them? Did you work on the George case? Why do you think that if her husband came to you while you were at a different firm, why do you think there would be a conflict of interest? We would have discussed conflict of interest throughout this assignment. So this should be probably an easy guess for you. But while you may have an idea in your head what the answer is, I want you then to show me that you have done some good research. So you're gonna go and look for some thing from the American Bar Association, maybe on conflict of interest, and discuss what a conflict of interest is. Tell me why or why not conflict of interest if you are now at the firm that is representing George. But tell me, if you do believe that we can represent George, what can the company do to protect that conflict of interest? So you want to go ahead and do some research. There is no right, there may not be a right or wrong answer. So you want to do the research. If you make a suggestion, my suggestion to you is make the argument. Make the argument clearly for what you suggested. Provide me an example of a conflict of interest situation. You know, you can use a divorce case that may be a conflict of interest. Since we're talking about divorce, you can use any situation, just at least one example, so I can see that you understand the key terms and concepts. As I promised, I am going to go ahead in a few minutes and provide you with a list of those essay questions so that you can at least go ahead and try to answer the questions in a Word format. So when you go to take the exam, what you're doing is that you're just copying and pasting the answers that you would have written in your Microsoft Word document into the exam itself. So that would take less time for you. It would give you adequate time to prepare, and you wouldn't be under the pressure of actually doing it in the essay, in the exam itself. I'm here for you. If you have any questions, give me a call. I will be more than happy to answer those questions for you. This should not be a very difficult week for you if you were actually listening to the lecture notes that were posted, the recordings, and we should be able to help you answer those questions. I noticed some of you have gotten really good at writing and responding to the discussion questions and ensuring that you do meet the word count. I urge you to please make sure that you focus on that during the midterm exam for this week. That will be important, but also understand that meeting the minimum word count or exceeding the word count is not enough. You have to demonstrate that you do understand what you're being asked, and your answer demonstrates that you understand the question and you have a good grasp of the concepts that were presented in this week's discussion. If you have any questions, again, I keep saying it all the time. I know I may sound like a broken record, but I am here for you. Reach out to me anytime.